Hi, my name is Emily Goodkey, and I did my poem analysis on the poem How Do I Love Thee by Elizabeth Barrett Browning. So, some background on the author. Elizabeth Barrett Browning was the first of 12 children to be born to Edward and Mary Moulton on March 6, 1806, in England. Her father was very possessive and a demanding man, and he loved his children even though he rigidly controlled their lives. Elizabeth's childhood was ideal in that the Barretts lived in a lovely setting, a country house called Hope End. She was an excellent horseback rider and enjoyed growing up with her many siblings. She never received any formal education, but Elizabeth loved to read. By age 8, she had learned to read Homer in the original Greek and had begun to write her own poetry. In 1819, her father had printed 50 copies of her classic, The Battle of Marathon, and in 1826, she was published anonymously with an essay on mind and many other poems. Elizabeth had such a large impact on the Romantic movement, and a big part of this reason is she had kind of a crazy love life. Because her youthful happiness was not to last. In 1821, she began to suffer from a nervous disorder that caused headaches, weakness, and fainting spells too. A lot of people say that this lifelong disorder, illness that she had was due to an accident that she had horseback riding when she was 15. She was trying to harness the horse on her own, and she fell with the saddle on top of her, damaging her spine. And so for a really long time, she had to take a prescription drug called opium, and it was highly addictive. And a lot of people believe that it was a life-shortening remedy. When Elizabeth was 20, her mom became fatally ill, and meanwhile, her dad had left all of his wealth, but rather than move immediately, he refinanced so that they would never have to leave their beautiful home. And after her death, it impacted Elizabeth a lot, and you can see that in her writing as well. But more than anything, like I was saying earlier, one of the biggest things that you can see in her writing is the Romance era, and one of her most famous poems is the one that I chose was the How Do I Love Thee, Let Me Count the Ways, and it is about her husband that she secretly married on September 12th, 1846, because her father would not let her be married. So she did it behind his back, but he ended up finding out, and when he found out, he refused to ever see his daughter again. The rest of her life, she journeyed south from France to Italy, and she had children there, and she ended up growing old and passing away in Florence, Italy. So she led a super amazing life, but really a lot of people can just say that she had such a big influence on poetry at the time. She was very popular in her time then, and also she made a big impact, obviously, on poetry just in general, the history of it. So I'm going to start going through just kind of analyzing what I got out of the poem. So she begins with a rhetorical question of how do I love thee? To which she answers, let me count the ways. This declaration makes a very strong and assertive impression on the reader and carries throughout the rest of the poem. She goes on to say, I love thee to the depth and breadth and height. This line is setting up for the next few lines, which state, my soul can reach when feeling out of sight. So this suggests that her love is stretching limits. Really, this poem is just super powerful because it shows just how strongly she felt for her husband, and just how different romance was back then, kind of. So, my soul can reach when feeling out of sight, that's the next line, And this line, sorry, I should have been showing. My soul can reach when feeling out of sight. So this line to me, what really stood out was how she's talking about her soul, because it's a lot deeper than just like herself. She recognizes that it's like a really powerful love for the ends and being of ideal grace. So the ideal grace part for me suggests that she just has such an extent of her love for him. And Grace is like, she was baptized as a Christian and in 1809. And it just, I feel like that shows through her writing, because she talks about things such as grace. I love thee to the level of every days. This shows a lot. She's literally comparing her love to the brightness of the sun. Most quiet need by sun and candlelight. So this line shows, I think the part where it talks about quiet need, it really shows like the sincerity and just that it's like deep in her heart. I love thee freely as men strive for right. I love thee purely as they turn from praise. So the part where it says as men strive for right, I was kind of confused by that at first, but when I read it a few more times, it's talking about like how men like what they work for and stuff. But and then in the next line when she says as they turn from praise, so obviously like everyone wants to be praised, especially men in those days were more prideful, and so she's saying she loves him purely as they turn from praise. So I just think that's really profound and powerful. I love thee with a passion put to use in my old griefs and with my childhood's faith. So an important part of understanding her background and why like I shared so much about like her childhood is because of this part of the poem. So like I said, she had like a really happy childhood, and she was just super carefree, and she was also a Christian, also super religious. So it talks about her old griefs and her childhood's faith. So she's talking about like her past life and how she sees like how it connects to now and how it connects to her husband. I love thee with a love I seem to lose. So that's a super romantic line, because she's talking about like losing. She's talking about losing something that's really important to her, like her love for him, and just showing how much she cares. With my lost saints, I love thee with the breath, smiles, tears of all my life. So this shows like the happy and the sad, and how she like loves him for when he's happy and when he's sad. Like obviously a marriage is like something that you have to go through a lot of trials and a lot of ups and downs, and so it's so reassuring, I'm sure, for him to hear that she loves him through the smiles and the tears and all of my life. It's a lifelong thing for her. It's not just a small feeling. And if God choose, I shall but love thee better after death. So she obviously believes in God, and she believed in an afterlife. So I think it was super powerful that she tied it into that, because obviously in our religion, like we believe that in life after death, and that we are sealed to our companion for eternity when we're married in the temple. So I know that she wasn't married in the temple or anything like that, but I think it's really special and sweet of her to say that she like plans on being with him after death, because a lot of people when they get married, like they'll say till death do we part and stuff, but she's like saying that she will love thee better after death. So I think that just shows a lot about how like her love isn't shallow, and it's not about like his appearance or anything like that. It's like a genuine, true love that she has in her heart for him. And I just think it's super powerful. This poem overall just inspired me, and it made me happy, and I hope that like one day I can relate to this poem. And I thought it was just really cool to read one of the most popular poems of this day, and one of the most influential poems to the Romantic movement. She was an amazing poet, and she showed this in all of her works and sonnets. I had a really good time like researching her and learning more about her past and her interests, and I thought her love story was really cool, how she was secretly married. I respect her a lot for that. and I thought it was really brave of her, considering her dad like cut her off. That would be hard, like, because she rely on someone like financially like that, and then have them completely cut you off. It would just be really, obviously she cared a lot about this man, and it's super cool because he was a poet too. And yeah, so thank you for listening.